Okay, well, this video is sponsored by the EA Creator Network, and finally, guys, I can finally show you FC25 Ultimate Team, and I wanted to go through the tactic system with you, and just give you a bit of an overview on what's changed. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe, because every single day we'll be uploading exclusive tutorials on FC25 if you want to get ahead of the game. Now, just a typical normal system that we do have. The only thing is that's different is like if you go to a player and you press the R3 button, you can see, for example, there's now the role section. This will have, for example, defender plus, and it depends on the player. For example, some players might have more than one role. Right now, just got a basic team, but that's not important. So just how you do normally, press L3, and then you head over to team management. Now, you can still change your formation here for the base starting lineup, but what you want to do here is you want to go to team management, and then you're going to walk to this page. So the first section is tactics. Now, as you can see, you have your default tactic. This will be the tactic that is shown over here. So this in Ultimate Team is your chemistry tactic. So if, for example, if I did a 4-5-1 and I changed it, if I then went into team management, you can see my default tactic is the 4-5-1. So this is almost like how it was before, your balanced tactic. Then you have a use code. Now, I'll come back to this in a second, but there's going to be a list of codes that you can use. In fact, by the time you're watching this video, it should be live now, hopefully. But I've made a website. Hopefully it works. Recommendations of my actual tactics. So you can see, for example, like here. So the website is fcrolls.com. And I'm just going to post all my tactics here. Just simple, keeping it simple, clean. Tactics codes. I know there's other sites as well, like Footbin, etc., etc. But I just wanted to give my code. So yes, that's where you can essentially enter a code and copy a tactic. I'll show you how that works in a second. Then you got, so using the D-pad, you can see we're swiping left to right. You can then create your new tactic. So look, you can see, and you can name any tactic you want. So we're going to call this tactic A, and then we're going to create a new one, tactic B. And then we're going to go tactic C. And I believe you can create 5 in total. So you got A, B, C, D. I think, no, this is it. Yeah, so yeah, there's a limit of 5 tactics. So technically speaking, it's 4 tactics. Because in Ultimate Team, don't forget, if we just back out here, we're going to save this. Don't forget, technically, your balanced formation is what you use just to get maximum chemistry and to get the players in the right position. So we go back into team management. And that's pretty much it. So let's say we want to edit a code, right? So we'll come back to assignments in a second. So let's go to tactic number A. We can press X. I'm just going to remove this for a second so you can see. We're just going to press edit tactic like so. Now, as you can see, you're going to have player roles and team tactics. On the left-hand side, you have team tactics. So what you could do here is you can see, you can press triangle and you can view all presets. Now, this is just, I would say, the recommendations. I would always say go to custom. And then, for example, if you want to change formation. Now, if you want to play, the thing is this year, roles now depend on formation. So do you remember how last year, if you had a left winger, you could move them in striker and they will still get 10 chemistry? Well, you can still do that. So, for example, let's say, for example, Wilson is a, let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, he's a left winger. You can still play him in striker. He will still get 10 chem if you move him in game. But what you don't get is the roles. So, for example, you can see here, I'm just going to show you this. We'll come at it. But you can see, look here. This player has a box-to-box role. But you can see, watch. I'm just going to move him out of position. Then you can see it says, look, player out of position. Role and focus are simplified. To enhance them, pick a player with a position as one of their preferred ones. So what that effectively means is they're still going to be playing that role, but it'll be playing at a very basic level. So that is why it's kind of important this year, more than anything, that you actually choose a formation for your role. Whereas before it was, you're basically choosing your team and applying it to the formations. But now it's the other way around. Roles are more important. Well, not really more important, but something to take into consideration. You can see there's all the formations, 3-4-2-1. What they've done is they've changed it. So, for example, in a 3-4-2-1, the left centre forward and right centre forward have now gone. They are now cams. You can press triangle here and you can view all formations. And what they've done is they've changed some of the 5 backs as well. Of course, you're going to see all the meta tactics videos. 5-2-1-2 remains. and so does the 5-4-1. But they removed the 5-2-2-1, which I don't know why they did, but they did. And 3 backs, I would say, probably have been nerfed, but I'll explain it in another video. That's mainly to do with roles and their positioning. Now, you also have the build-up style. Now, build-up style, very similar to last year. You had slow build-up play, stuff like that. Now you have balanced, counter, short passing, and that's basically it. There's only 3. Now, there's no long ball, so especially if you didn't use L1 triggers, long ball was kind of like a help thing because it made a player get in behind. That's the biggest thing you will struggle with in FC25. Because you can't apply instructions to a player, there's now just roles, which I'll get onto in a second. You can't, for example, ask a player to get it behind. So if you ever know that I always advocated L1 button, trigger those players manually. If anything, now more than ever, it's the most important. And if you want to see how this works as well, come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/nilguys. FC School's already started right now by the time you're watching this video. And if you don't get bet after 1 month, we'll refund your money. That's a nil guides guarantee. You literally join, you got nothing to lose. And that is how Shoya will improve. But build up style, look, you're balanced. This will vary between forward runs and coming short. So players will still come short towards you. Then you have counter, which might be, I would say, more the popular one now because it encourages players to go quickly and to get in behind. So maybe this one will be much more sought after. Kind of like fast build up play almost from the previous years. And then you have short passing where players come short to support. I don't think this would be used that much. Maybe if you're trying to close the game out per se, but something like balance would be a good way to start. Or if you really do struggle with L1 triggers and you like to have more movement, counter would be probably viable in the beginning and then maybe over time move the balance. Now, as you can see, there's no final third play. So what happens in a final third? You maybe ask me, does players just make runs on themselves? Well, it just depends on a few things. In the final third, effectively, it's dependent on roles. So we'll come back to this. So remember how last year you could do direct passing? You can't do that anymore. Let me just bring out my my marker so you can see. So in the final third of the pitch, let's just say that's your opponent's half, and this is the final third. The movement will depend on the roles. So now the build-up play, you can argue, will be the first 2/3. Now, you have the defensive approach. Now, remember how last year you could choose the defensive width. You can choose also depth, for example, and your defensive style. Well, now that's gone. The only downside I don't like about this tactics is a bit more simplified, but it makes it easier for the average user to get the grasp of. So the defensive approach is basically when you're out of possession, how's your defensive line? So you have balanced, you have high, you have aggressive, and then that's it. Deep as well. Now, what I'd probably say is there's an exact number I can't remember right now, but on the sheet, I think balanced. And if you go above balance, basically up to high, although you'll be holding a high line, what happens is your players don't mark players. So you got deep. That's a safety approach when your defense drop deep, kind of like almost like park the bus per se. And then you have balance, which gives you the flexibility in how they drop back and when they track. At least they still track backward balanced. Then you have high, a risky approach to defending, applying situational pressure and adopting a high line that tends not to track opposition players. So you'll be, realistically, it's a lot of manual play that will be needed here, especially when you're up against a good player. Maybe you can get away with it against a weaker opponent, but not against a good player. And aggressive is the most front-footed approach. For example, if you're losing inside a game, adopting a high line that focuses on applying pressure after losing possession and setting off side trap, and it uses more stamina. You can also press triangle and you can adjust it. So let's say, for example, I know, for example, with balanced, I don't want just the basic balanced. I would want the highest amount of balance, for example, in theory, 60, without going into high, because that's like the switch when the players don't track the run. So for example, 60. So I'd recommend when you start the game, stay on balance. It's always good. This is the key. I know people are going to suggest left, right, but always start on a very basic one and then always change it after. Now you see, for example, here, this is now the code. So let's say, for example, you said to your friend, hey Neil, I've got a code. So let's say, for example, on my website, as an example, this would be the code. So you enter the code in and you can copy the tactic. So I'm actually going to take a screenshot of this now. I'm just going to show you how that copy the tactic works. And it's universal, it's global, in fact. So if your friend is playing on Nintendo Switch, for example, not that I don't think I've known any player that does, but let's say your friend does. they can then copy the code and it works very, very simply. So then you have player roles. So for example, that's tactics in a nutshell. There's not that much after that. You press X, you can save changes, okay? Then you press the R1 button, then you go to player roles. Now this is the most important thing, okay? So effectively instructions have gone. I've already explained this, but roles are now, so how a player moves both on the ball and and off the ball all depends on roles. So you can see with the right stick, you can switch with the ball possession, and with the right stick, you can see without the ball. Now, the key thing is, and this is why choosing a formation is very, very important, is let's say, for example, you want to defend in a 4-4-2, then that's the formation you should be choosing. Why do I say that? Well, you see, unfortunately, what you can't do is, so let's say, for example, in attack, for example, I want to make this player attacking player. I want to make this player, for example, a false back, and I want to make this player a false back as well. Now, this is showing your defensive layout. If I then switch views with the right analog stick, I can see my team in possession of the ball. And you can see it's kind of like a 2-2, it's kind of like a 2-2-2-4 system when I have possession of the ball, but I can't choose my defensive shape. So that is why the formation that you choose, so if you're trying to build a squad and you're trying to look for players with the correct roles, make sure you choose your defensive structure. So the basic structure is always your defensive structure. Do not forget that. Okay, so let's say, for example, here I chose, for example, a 4-4-2 just to keep things a bit easy. And then, for example, if you want to see, okay, so let's say you change a player, for example, to Smalling, and I put him to, for example, ball playing defender. Now, this heat map is a good indication, but it's not really precise. But you just flick your right analog stick at any time, and you can see, for example, where you can see with a ball playing center back, he then is pushed up a little bit more. So basically, every player has, or every, should I say, position has a different role. So you have false nine, poacher, advanced forward. These are basically, you can argue, the main thing they're going to do. So for example, I could have a target forward. Then below that, the role itself, you have a focus. So focus is basically, think of this, maybe this is not the correct way of describing it, but I think of this like the instruction of the role, okay? So it's a bit easier to explain on the winger. Let's say I have a winger. If, for example, I want a winger to be attacking, I can make the focus more attacking. You can see when set to attack, the winger will focus on getting forward, preferring to make runs in behind, instead of receiving the ball to the feet. So this wing is going to be making runs in behind. They're not necessarily going to be coming short to midfield players. If you have the ball with carry in midfield, that player is not going to be coming short. And you can see, for example, with balanced, the wing will offer both defensive and attacking support. They'll mix making runs in behind, but also offer themselves as a passing option. So you have the ball with carry. This player may, for example, come when there's the right place at the right time, or let's say you have the ball with carry and there's a space available, that player might come short. Then you have other ones. So you can see that just has two focuses. But I know, for example, if I go to wide midfielder, you can see there's two here. There's defense and balance. So a wide midfielder can be balanced. So quite similar. It helps support in possession and provides defensive support where needed. And you can see without the ball, that's the play. And you can see with the ball, the heat map changes, but the player's position doesn't change. So, for example, you can see like here when I change to defend, when asked to defend, the wide midfielder will drop into the defensive line and protect the defense. So if you were thinking about comeback on defense last year, let's say you wanted to make a player come back on defense, what you'd effectively would do is you would make the right mid, in this case, a defensive player. If, for example, you wanted, for example, your left mid to make runs in behind, then, for example, you'll do, for example, a winger, and you'll do attacking. That way they'll make runs in behind. So that is how effectively roles work. So it's very, very important. Just to show you as an example, I'm just going to save this for a second. So it's very, very important when you choose your team. So let's say, for example, I have this player here, and I know he can play both the playmaker and the box role plus. Now, is it the end of the world if you don't? Look, you should have at least a role plus for each one. I think each player has at least one role plus, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm incorrect. But I believe that's what they released in the note. It said every single player has one role plus. So try to get the player that you want with the role plus. But role plus is, I think right now, if you're watching this when the game comes out, there's only 2 role pluses for example, false backs in the entire game. It's Hernandez and then I think it's Trent Alexander's only 2 players. New players will get released. If you're watching this in December, there's probably more players available. But listen, look. They'll be playing a simplified version, but it's not the end of the world. I've tried to play it out of position. They still play to the role. So let's say, for example, you put someone who's not a winger. Let's say you put a centre back in a winger position, and for example, you ask them to get it behind. They will still get it behind, but maybe those runs won't be as good. Maybe the timing won't be as good. Maybe if you had a chance for that player to run in between the defenders, someone like a Vinicius Jr. may run more fluidly into that space, whereas with a centre back is more of an extreme example, but let's say you put them there and it's more of you're relying on L1, R1. That's why I said to you, it's always about the basics. Remember, I've always taught you my fundamentals. Remember, you can get to the elite division with just that's what we teach in FC school. Elite division, you just need the basics. You don't need to complicate things with mechanic computing. You do that to bridge your gap. Learn how to drive and steer a car first before you start learning how to manually shift, heel, and toe. Learn the basics first. So that's one thing I wanted to say. So if I go back here to as you can see, team management, and that is basically it. So you can see here you have all the different tactics, and for example, that's what I was talking about, the new code. So I'm just going to delete a tactic here. So you can see here we've got one over here. I'm just going to go like this, and I'm just going to change this to this, change that to that, just as an example, right? And you can see now we have a code. Okay, so I'm actually going to I'm going to quickly just screenshot this. So as soon as you make a change, that code will change every single time because it depends what changes you make. So let's say, for example, I'm going to delete this tactic. So I'm just going to remove this for a second, and I'm going to go to square, press manage tactic, and I'm going to press delete, and you can rename it if you want to. Now, what we want to do is we want to copy tactic A. Okay, so you want to go to new code, and I'm going to enter the code. Unfortunately, this is the part where it's a bit long, and don't forget it is case sensitive. So for mine is C41. G, capital C. I don't think I've ever typed capital, so make sure the capitals are correct. It is case sensitive. Juliet, Romeo, Zulu, 8. And I can press like that, and you can see it imports it, and you can see, look here, there's a tactic preview. It tells you a 4-4-2 build-up style, balance. It gives you a bit of an example, and you press X to confirm, and then it doesn't copy the name. So remember, I named it A, so you can call it whatever you want. So I'm gonna call it here. I'm gonna call it nil. And then do you want to make it active tactic just for this example? I'm gonna press no, and there you can see nil is added into the game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if you want to change tactics in game, you can press down. Now let's say, for example, you're inside the game. What you'll do, I'm just going to press save changes. Let's say you're inside a game now, and I pause the game, and let's say I go to team management. If you want to change formation, all you have to do is press left or right on the D-pad, okay, and then you press triangle or Y if you're on Xbox, and there you go. You make it your active tactic, like so. You see that? So I'm just going to show you one more time, right? So let's say, for example, I'm inside a game and I want to make this my active tactic. Press triangle, and then I back out. The only downside is it changes your balanced formation. So don't do this in Ultimate Team. That's just how you change tactics in game. So there's 2 ways. You either press down your D-pad on the bottom right corner. I think it's down anyway. And the bottom right corner, you'll get like a list of your tactics, and you can choose the corresponding D-pad and also tactics name shop. So you can see the tactic is called nil. That tactic will be there as well. So that is one of the best things. Then we have the assignment section. So think of this like the kick takers, effectively. The new ones this year. So the ones that really are important realistically are the new ones, which is the ones at the bottom. So you have the corner kick, the target player, the corner kick, near post target, near post player, and then the back post player. So remember the days when we had Kante and CDM, and Kante used to always be defending the near post option? Well, finally they got rid of that, and they've changed it. And if you're still unsure, you can just press this button here, and you can see, look, it has it will show you, for example, my tactics. It will give you a bit of a tutorial. Well, the tutorial will be good as how I explain it, probably, maybe, who knows. But look, you can see, for example, you can go over tactical presets, and it will tell you, for example, how it works. You use a template, and you can see with in-game tactics, you can swap tactics with that panel I was talking about. And you can see here, look, you press, I believe it's down your D-pad, and you can bring them up. Uh, but that is pretty much tactics in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm probably going to be making some more tactics as well. I don't think my website, FC Rolls, will be a list. FCRolls.com will be a list of all my tactics that I recommend. And even not just from even other players and pro players as well. And that's pretty much it. That is basically how tactics all works in a nutshell. So if you were, let's say hypothetically, you were going to buy someone. So let's say, for example, I'm going to look. I don't think Sun's on the market. But let's just say, for example, here, I go and search Sun. You can see, okay, there's one player with Sun. So you can see, look here, he's an advanced forward. So I'll be thinking, okay, I'm going to want to put him in the advanced forward, but he also has another role plus. Maybe eventually there might be a player with 2 role pluses. So for example, look at what you want. I have a video on my Patreon series where I go through every single position, every single focus in detail and explain to you how their movements work. But also, if you're not sure, just go and try it. Like, even if you have a team, and let's say, for example, this goalkeeper is not a sweeper keeper, just try it. Don't worry about it too much. Even Callum Wilson, you can put him there and then you can try him out. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this and more tutorials. We're uploading, I think, twice a day from today. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks EA for allowing me to make this video early to help inform you guys. If you have any questions, let me know down below. I'll try to answer them as quick as I can when I'm available, or if not, I'll try to answer it in the next video. But thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.